This is the Your Money Hour podcast. I am your host, Dakota Grady. Welcome to the show, everybody. So it is Black History Month, February 2022. So I want to just shout that out to everybody and just want to recognize Black History Month. It started with Black History Week with Carter G. Woodson, who was an alumni of Berea College in Berea, Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
One of my I'm an alumni of Berea College. So,
Woo,
and I also have
both of us
on the show as well, who is also an alumni. So if you need help with the accounting and taxes for your business and you're a nurse practitioner entrepreneur, contact me today at THE. Actually, my website is THEATDOC.com. That's the @doc.com. And send me an email at info@THEATDOC.com. And if you're struggling with your finances, my new book called Broke is out, available online on Amazon. And also I'm having a book signing in Greenville, South Carolina this Saturday, February 26th from 10 to 12 p.m. at M. Jackson Booksellers, downtown Greenville. So check us out. Website is DakotaGrady.com. DakotaGrady.com. One more time, DakotaGrady.com. Enough about me. So today's guest is a friend of mine for many, many years. And we actually grew up in the same neighborhood. And her friend, actually her brother now, we hung out together years ago. And her name is Frederica Hutchinson. Frederica is, again, a friend of mine. I've been knowing her for many years. Today, we're going to talk about motivation. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Frederica.
Hey, Dakota. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I also want to say, I'm just a natural promoter, guys. I love the fact that Dakota has written this book. I know you are featuring me today and I'm going to be talking about me, but I just have to give you a shout out. I've already ordered my book. I'm going to be at the book signing. I'm going to encourage you guys to come out and join us too.
Awesome. Thank you for that plug, I should say. Thank you. So tell everybody about who you are and what you do, Frederica.
Okay, my name is Frederica Hutchinson, and it's very interesting, Dakota, because when people ask me what do I do, all I can say is I'm obedient. And what that means is I don't really have, it's not that I don't have a plan. You sat with me several times recently. You know what my plans are. However, it was not intentional. My major was business admin at Berea. When I went to Webster, it was HR, human resources and development. And I did that for many years. My story kind of starts, this is where I'll start at, 12 years ago when I lost my daughter. 12 years ago, I wasn't expecting it. I was basically where I wanted to be at Dakota. I had my degree, I had my house, I had my kids. I was on track in my mind to do what it was that I wanted to do. Well, how many of y'all know that sometimes our plans are not his plans? So this last 12 years has just been a journey. I went through depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. That's just to name a little bit of things. I've been through depression. I've been through hoarding. And I'm going to stop for a minute and talk about hoarding because it's one of those things that when you go through hoarding, that's not something you want to share. It's not. It's embarrassing. It's like what, you watch the show Hoarders and you're thinking to yourself, those people, what's wrong with them? Well, I want to say this much. I am not a counselor. I'm not a psychologist, but I'll tell you what's wrong with them. They're missing something. And a lot of times to replace that thing they're missing, whether it's a child, a spouse, a job, a marriage, a lot of times they will resort to other vices such as shopping. And so that was kind of my case. So I was shopping and shopping some more. And my husband, he actually, it actually caused some tension in our marriage. And that's what kind of woke me up. And that was one of the things that woke me up. There were many things, my children, but I'll go into those later. But it kind of woke me up because I had always been financially savvy. I was the one that saved. I was the one that the friends borrowed from. However, I was starting to just kind of spend money. And so I prayed and I asked God, I said, God, I know this is not what you have over my life. What would you have me to do? And in a small voice, it's kind of like I heard you're already doing it. And I woke up one day, Dakota, and I literally had enough stuff for a whole store. And so I started, instead of accumulating items, I started selling items. I started at yard sales. I started having flea markets. I went to an antique store, and that's kind of one of my specialties, and that's where it kind of grew out of, was vintage antique items. It's not my end game. That's not what I see. I see my store eventually being. I would definitely love to have more of a one-stop shop, gift shop. So that's kind of where I'm headed in the future.
Wow.
That was a mouthful, and I'm not even finished, Dakota. I figured I just
So
need to breathe for a second.
let's begin with you losing your child, and then we can go into the motivation. I mean,
Yes, yes,
let's keep it organic. Whatever happens, happens. So talk
yes,
about that
yes,
because I have a daughter. She's 5.
yes.
Sometimes she makes me want to give her 2 black eyes, but I love my daughter. But talk about that
Well,
losing the child. I
well,
mean, take me there. Take us
yes,
there.
I will. And the interesting thing is, your daughter reminds me very much of my daughter with the little ponytail. And my daughter name's Naomi. Your daughter's name is Naomi as well. Well, my daughter Naomi Love. You've heard people say you have to experience it. You had to experience her. She was like an old soul, but with a young spirit. She was smart. She had this wisdom. And I love when I meet people who knew her because they know what I'm talking about. It's really hard to kind of understand or grasp unless you knew her. But Naomi was a very high energy child. And I'm going to start out by kind of sharing the story of how my day went January the 31st, 2010. And I'm going to say right fast, cut myself off. I can say that date today. It's been 12 years. 12 years, I could never even acknowledge that day. But God has been healing me. The Holy Spirit has been healing me. And that's a part of what my message is now is the Holy Spirit is real. He's the same yesterday as he is today, and he's still working miracles. And I'm telling you guys, I could not have made it through the depression, the anxiety, the post-traumatic stress, the domestic violence, the hoarding, any of that stuff had it not been for the Holy Spirit and God. So on January 31st, 2010, I woke up and I was sick. Dakota, it was like somebody had taken my body and was hanging me upside down. I feel like my body knew something was going to be taken away from me. So that day I was on my couch all day long. I only got up 3 times, and the 3 times were just to cook meals. So that morning I got up and I started cooking breakfast. And the funny thing is, you guys, is I was a serial mom. So for me to be getting up cooking was a big deal. But anyways, I got up, I cooked grits, eggs, bacon, biscuits, the whole little 9 yards. I'm proud of myself, but no sooner than I finished cooking, Naomi walks in the kitchen and she's crying. And I'm like, Naomi, what are you crying for? And she said, I don't want grits. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't want grits? I just cooked. We're gonna have grits. But I tell you what I'll do, because I'm all about always having a solution. I tell you what I'll do. I said, we'll have oatmeal for breakfast because that's what she was crying for. She wanted oatmeal. So I said, okay, Naomi, we'll have oatmeal for breakfast. So um, we finished our breakfast with no more incidents. I can't even tell you what we had for lunch. And the reason I share this story, I think for me, it brings me great comfort, Dakota, to know that I was able to give my child like one of her final wishes. I guess that's the way I kind of look at it because that means a lot to me. But it was dinner time, and as promised, I gave Naomi oatmeal. And when I gave her the oatmeal, we had just finished, and my mom walks in. And when my mom walks in my house, we had a love seat on one side, a couch on the other side. My mom sat in the love seat, Naomi sat in her lap, and she just started to go on and on about, she said, Grandma, I've done everything. She said, what else is there left to do? She said, I've been a dancer, I've been a singer, I've been an artist. And I thought she said, I think I want to, I thought she said, I've been an angel. But my mom was talking to me the other day and she reminded me, she said, what Naomi said is, I'm going to be an angel, is what she said. And now this is literally, it was less than 30 minutes before she took her final breath. So my mom was there. She was taking videos. Yes, it was 10 years ago, so 12 years ago. So they still had video stores. So she was taking videos back to Ingles for me. And I went to lay down. I told you I've been sick all day long, only got up to cook breakfast. So I go and I'm listening to Apostle Ron Carpenter. If you're local or even, he's national now. So he was with Redemption World Outreach. I'm not sure what his ministry is currently called. But I was excited. I could not wait for the word. I mean, I had been sick and drained all day long. And I was really just waiting, to get a word in. And so as my kids were in the living room with my mom, I went to lay down in my bed and watch and to watch him streaming. So I'm logged on, and Apostle Ron, he's talking, and one of the things he said, some people are going to have a coming cold and they're going to turn their backs on God. He said other people are going to have life-changing events. And at that very moment, Dakota, I heard, which one will you be? And I'm going to ask you guys, which one will you be? Because at that time, I didn't realize how significant it was, but everything happened so quickly. There was no time to think about, am I crazy? Am I hearing something? Oh, I got to go back because y'all don't know what I heard. I went back to watch Redemption, to watch Apostle Run years later. Apostle Run never said, which one will you be? But I heard, which one will you be? And when I heard, which one will you be, I also heard death, child, death, child. I didn't stop to ask questions. I didn't stop to say, am I hearing something? Am I crazy? Am I losing my mind? I ran from my bedroom to my front door. And when I got to my front door, Dakota, at the threshold of my door, my daughter was there, my older daughter, and she said, Grandma, I just ran over Naomi. And yes, so my mom was going to take the videos for me. When I went to lay down, my kids, they're always plotting. Grandmas know kids, they're always plotting. Moms know kids are always plotting. That grandmother is, they're different. They get to go home at the end of the day. So they're always bringing stuff over, hugs, kisses, love. And so my kids, they were plotting. They realized they didn't have school the next day because it had snow or had ice on the ground. So they were plotting to go stay the night with grandma. So one thing led to the other. Naomi not ran out, but she went outside. She was holding on to the back door, about to ask grandma if she could spend the night. And I think the wheel may have rolled over her foot, and she somehow slid between the tires. And within 30 minutes, she passed, and I watched her take her final breath. Yes.
It's heavy right there, man.
It has been, and I'll share with you guys. It's 12 years, but to me, it's kind of like yesterday. Truth be told, time doesn't even exist anymore. It's just like at this point, I really remember what Naomi said. I've done everything. What else is there left for me to do? And that's kind of my message now, Dakota, is what else is there left for me to do? I laid on my couch for 12 years, not literally, but for 12 years, I could barely work. I went from being an HR manager, supervising over 200 people, to not even being working probably 40, 50, 60 hours a week, to barely being able to work 15 hours a week. But I'll tell you again, not only with the hoarding, I started seeking God. I believe in his word, and the word said the truth will set you free. So in everything, I start looking for truth. And I realized that a lot of the things I was going through, Dakota, it wasn't even the world lying to me, it was me lying to me. And so I had to start, I believe what I did when I went through the depression is I no longer wanted any of the responsibility. I don't say that like I was lazy. Believe me, I wanted the responsibility. I couldn't do the things. I felt like I couldn't do the things. I don't know if I'm clarifying, but what I'm trying to say is there's a part of us that's the solution. Matter of fact, we are the solution. Just like we can sometimes be the problem, we're part of we are the solution. And so when I started acknowledging my own self and looking at my own self again, that's when I started to heal. And when I started to pray, I want to make sure I stress this. I know for a fact I could not have come through this without prayer and fasting. And I believe that's what broke the depression off me. I want to say one other thing about that too. With depression, I just went through the 12-year anniversary of Naomi, and I didn't know how that week or that day was going to hit me. And you know me, Dakota, I'm a high energy person. I love being involved. I love helping people. I love serving. But when that day hit, I was great. It was the next couple of days that I struggled. And I found myself back on my couch. And I realized in that moment, I said, this is like addiction. This is no different than drug addiction. This is no different than alcoholism. You have to take depression seriously, and you have to take it one day at a time, because there are things, again, I'm not a psychologist or a doctor, but there are things that can trigger you, such as the date of your child's death, the date of their birthday, the smell or something. Snow. I didn't realize to this year I had not played in the snow for 12 years, Dakota. And this year, I actually recorded a little video because me and my kids, I said, I'm doing it, not just for me, but for my kids. I have other children. I can't lay on my couch and just give up. And so we went and played in the snow, and I played like a big old kid and slid down the hill in that little bitty sled. And y'all, by the way, I didn't break that sled. It was all right. The kids broke it. But yes, Dakota, I am in the process of healing. I want to make sure everybody knows you do not go from dysfunction to functional overnight. It's a process. And I just thank God that He has guided me through this process. I don't have to do this alone.
So mental health is a big issue now. I guess it's been an issue, but we're now bringing
But
it to light.
COVID has brought it to the forefront. It has.
And I mean, I have a brother who deals with that. I mean, I guess we all deal with mental illness. We all have our minds, we have struggles, and it is what you decide to do with it. Like you mentioned earlier, I mean, basically, I'm gonna paraphrase, being proactive. You said about we are the solution, and what God said, we are the solution. If we know what to do, we gotta just put one foot in front of the other and then take action to come out of that thing. But it's not by ourselves though. I mean, because some things are powerful. I mean, losing a child is powerful. I mean, life is precious. So there are many things, man, that are traumatic that we have to get help and then move forward. So did you get any help from any counselor, or how did you move towards or move forward in your life?
Dakota, when I say I was desperate, I was desperate. Because again, I had pretty much accomplished all of my goals to that point. And I have always been goal oriented. So for me to not be able to work 15 hours a week was just, if nothing else, a sign that something wasn't right. And I sought out counselors, psychiatrists. I share this part because I think it's funny, because I had no clue that they even still did it. I was so depressed, Dakota. I was clinically depressed. I was so depressed that it was actually recommended I get shock therapy. This is I'm going to say 2018, 2019. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't know people were still doing that. But that's just how depressed I was. And I was like, but I can't stay here. And I was telling you some of the things that kind of motivated me to seek help and to keep on fighting was, I told you, me and my husband were kind of having arguments about finances, and that was an area of my life I had always been really good at. But another thing is my children. So it wasn't that I was okay with me being depressed, but I was not okay at all, Dakota, watching my children struggle or suffer. Um, I take education very seriously. And I was watching one of my kids kind of falling behind, and I was like, no, no, and I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight. And so I the way I saw depression, it was two ways. One of them, I felt like I was out in the middle of the ocean by myself on a raft, and it was just like the waves and the water just kept on pushing me further away from the shore, and I was trying to get to the shore. And the other way was kind of like a well, like I had fallen down this dark well. And can you imagine trying to climb up the sides of this well, and the only thing you have in your hands, there's no rope, there's nothing, and you can't even see the light. But one day after prayer and fasting, I started to see the light. And once I saw that light, there was no turning back. And so that's where I'm at now. I told you a little bit about my store, but now I have a podcast called Win Women in Business. And even that'll be transforming soon into Wings. And that's a whole nother amazing story in itself.
Wow. So you go from being goal oriented, living a good life, to basically being paralyzed, and then now back up on the move. So, but it took prayer, fasting, you mentioned, and then just motivation, your marriage, your children. So you have to have a why, right? You have to have a why to keep moving forward. If you don't, you lose hope, right?
Yes, and I'll tell you one of the things that my podcast even taught me. So the name change, I really feel like I fought for the name Win Women in Business, and I love the name and didn't want to change the name. But I feel like part of the reason that the name is changing, and I love the fact that it's changing the wings. We may have time for me to kind of go into that story a little bit, but um, business, and I noticed that your motto is money, business, and life. And that's how I feel also. When I every time I would say win women in business, it's like I was literally convicted because we are whole beings. And I can't just have a good business, or I can't just have a happy, well, your life isn't going to be happy because it's not going to be complete if you don't have a balance. You have to have family, you have to have your spiritual life, you have to have your health. I was talking to a family or relative recently who's been sick with COVID for over a year,
Mm,
and that has been devastating, over a year.
mm.
And we talked about all the hours you've worked, all the time you've wasted. When you get to that point in your life where you don't know, am I going to be here tomorrow, and you're still wanting to be here, then none of that other stuff matters. And so that's what I'm trying to be a whole, complete self.
Yeah, time is precious. I mean, that's why I don't like to waste my time with things because I got stuff I want to do. Me
Exactly.
personally, I can't be on the TV on the couch watching TV all day long because I got dreams and goals. I mean, God gave me a big dream, so I got to make it happen. Talk about your dreams of just what are some of your dreams as a woman, entrepreneur, a mother, a wife? Like, what are some of your big dreams for you and your family?
I've heard other people say this, but I kind of feel this way too. I'm kind of like Harriet Tubman. No Satan, no enemy. You had me in hell, but I'm free and I'm telling it. I am speaking my truth. I am going to share with the world. I want to make sure people know that you can be set free. I don't care if it's addiction. I don't care if it's alcoholism. I don't care if it's domestic violence. Whatever it is that somebody is going through, they can be free. And so I just want to share the word, share my truth, share my story, Dakota. If I get paid in the process, which he knows our hearts and our desires, but that ain't why I do it. But he knows my heart and my desire. He didn't bring me through this hell not to see me through. So I am just having faith that if I'm obedient, if I do what he tells me to do, he's gonna provide for me. So all I'm trying to do is just share my story, continue to do, follow the instructions, because I must back up for a minute. There are things that I don't want to share. Like I told you about the hoarding. I don't want to share that. The domestic violence, I don't want to share that. Having to relive the imagery and the thoughts of losing my daughter, I don't want to share it. However, I know that there are other people who have struggled with similar things or are going through their own hell, and they're believing a lie that I believe, Dakota, that nobody else is going through it. Do you know why? Because everybody is looking picture perfect, and they're selling. All they're doing is selling a dream, and people are thinking, "Oh, they made it. I can make it." What they're not telling you is they went through hell to get there.
Mm,
Nobody, unless they have a inheritance, nobody's just waking up there. It takes time. I didn't wake up looking like this. I had to throw my wig on. So you know what I'm saying? We don't just wake up looking like this. You had to go through something. People need to start sharing that. And that's what I do. And that's what I like about you too, Dakota. That's what you do too. You actually, I didn't share this with you. You inspired me when you were on my podcast last time. You said, I grew up and I was poor. I never realized it was something I was ashamed of. We were poor, but I was happy. I look at that joy that I had back then, those friends I had, I still have, and I was happy, but I was ashamed of it. And I believe that's where the enemy sneaks in. If he can have you be quiet about something because you're afraid of it or you're ashamed of it, you'll never speak on it. And then somebody else is out there suffering and they're believing they're the only one going through it. That's a lie. And that's a trick of the enemy.
that's true. That's true. So, man, this good stuff right here. So I'm gonna wrap up with this right here. I mean, like, in my opinion, I got from this right here that you have to have have faith, one, first and
Have
foremost.
faith. Yes.
And we follow Christ. So if you don't know Christ, I hope you are encouraged to go and learn about Christ and get connected with a local church and start being Jesus to other people first. Secondly,
It's that book, Dakota. I love the church, but I love that book. It's that book, that word. So many people don't know the word for themselves. And I'm not saying don't have a pastor and your pastor be a mentor to you. I'm saying get in the book yourself. I listen to audiobooks because I'm not going to sit there and read 20, 100,000 words. However, the audiobook is just, it's going to say it for the words that you're afraid to pronounce, it'll pronounce it for you. So I say get in the word.
awesome.
But you're
So
right.
in the
Word, a good
Bible,
church.
read, and then be willing to get help and then take action. So before we close, what do you want to leave the audience with?
I just want to leave them with love. My daughter's name was Naomi Love, and I never realized all these little coincidences. I don't think they're coincidences. God knew what he was doing. But her name was Naomi Love. That's what she's taught me. That's what I'm sharing. So I want to encourage you to be kind, nice, encourage, motivate other people. When you give to others, Dakota, what I'm learning, you actually end up receiving more back. We can't outgive him. We can't outgive him. So give to others and you will see a return on your own life.
Awesome. So how can people find out about you and your podcast and
So
your
the name of
business?
my yes, the name of my podcast is currently Win Women in Business. Do not ask me when it's switching over. The Holy Spirit is leading this thing. I'm in the passenger seat, but it will be soon. It's called the new name will be Win. So you can find me on Facebook. I'm also located at the Market at the Mill. That's 225 Punkintown Highway in Pickens, South Carolina. That's where my store is located. It's called Tags and Co. And Tags and Co stands for Touch by an Angel Gift Shop and Consignment because Naomi was my little angel.
Awesome. So thank you for listening to the Your Money Hour podcast. And also thank you for joining us, Frederica. And let's connect again in person and maybe do another podcast.
Sounds great. Thank you, Dakota.
I thank you.